She stood by the kitchen counter, arms crossed, voice steady like a user testing an interface she already knew would fail. "If you tell Chris," Julia said, "we're done." I smiled. Not the warm kind, the architectural kind, the one I use when I find a structural flaw nobody else noticed yet. "Then let's start with him," I said. "Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better." Her eyes widened, just for a second. Then the mask came back, that perfect UX designer composure she wore like body armor. "You wouldn't. Watch me." But I didn't move, didn't reach for my phone, just stood there, letting the silence do what words couldn't. Julia hated silence. She needed control, needed the interface to respond predictably. I'd just crashed her system. "Alex." Her voice softened, shifted to persuasion mode. "Rachel is going through something complicated. She needs support, not judgment. She's cheating on Chris. It's not that simple. It literally is." Julia set down her wine glass with that deliberate care that meant she was about to deploy logic against me, her favorite weapon. "Relationships have nuance. Rachel and Chris have been struggling for months. Sometimes people need to explore their feelings before making permanent decisions." "By sleeping with Mason Clarke?" Her jaw tightened. "How did you know it was Mason?" I hadn't known for certain until that exact moment. She just confirmed it. Architectural thinking, pattern recognition. You learn to read the negative space, the things people don't say. "Lucky guess," I said. Julia picked up her glass again, buying time to recalibrate. She was good at this, the conversational UX. Anticipate user behavior, guide them toward desired outcomes, minimize friction. "Look," she said, "I understand you have principles. I respect that about you, but Chris is fragile right now. If you tell him, it won't help him, it'll destroy him. And keeping him in the dark helps how? It gives Rachel time to figure things out properly. While she's figuring things out in Mason's bed. Don't be crude. Don't be a coward." The word hung there between us like a syntax error. Julia's face hardened. "If you tell Chris," she said again, slower this time, "I will leave you. I'm not joking, Alex. This is my best friend. I won't let you blow up her life because you have some outdated idea about loyalty." I looked at her. Really looked. Tried to find the woman I'd proposed to 6 months ago. The one who cried at movies about dogs. The one who said honesty was the foundation of everything. She wasn't there anymore. Maybe she never had been? "Okay," I said. "Okay, what?" "Okay, I won't tell Chris." Relief flooded her face. She thought she'd won. Thought her threat had worked. "Thank you, really. You're doing the right thing." I nodded, smiled. Turned back to my laptop where I'd been working on renderings for the Riverside project. But inside, something had shifted. Not anger, not even hurt. Something colder, more structural. The relationship had just failed its load-bearing test. I spent the next 3 days pretending everything was normal. Made coffee in the mornings, asked about her day, laughed at her jokes. We were together twice, the kind of closeness that left her smiling as she drifted to sleep. Julia relaxed. Crisis averted. User experience returned to optimal. But I was building something in the background, running calculations, gathering data. On Thursday, I found her tablet on the coffee table. She'd left it unlocked, something she never did. Careless. Or maybe she trusted me again. I shouldn't have looked. That's what the old Alex would have thought. The new Alex opened her messages. Rachel's thread went back months. Hundreds of messages. I scrolled, reading backward through time, watching the affair assemble itself in reverse. "Mason says he's falling for me." "What did you tell him?" "That I need more time. Chris suspects nothing. He's too busy with that merger case." "You're so good at this. I'd be a mess." "Practice makes perfect, LOL." My hands were steady. That surprised me. I kept scrolling. "If Alex ever finds out about Mason, just say it was emotional support. He's too logical to explode. He'll want to process it rationally." "You know him so well." 5 years together. I know how he operates. He's predictable." I read that line 3 times. Predictable. 5 years condensed to a behavioral pattern. An algorithm she'd solved. I kept reading, further back, deeper. "Saw Mason at the startup party. He's exactly your type." "Jules, I'm engaged. And I'm eating salad. Doesn't mean I wouldn't rather have cake." "You're terrible. I'm honest." You're the one lying to herself. The timestamp was from 2 months ago. Our engagement party. While I'd been talking to Chris about his latest case, Julia had been planting seeds. I copied the entire thread to my encrypted backup. Then I checked her other conversations. Found Mason's profile in her work Slack. Professional at first, then progressively less so. Flirtation disguised as collaboration. Meeting requests that went past midnight. Photo attachments marked for review that were definitely not work-related. Julia had always been good at documentation. Ironic, really. I found something else, too. Her beta project for Mindwell 2.0, the emotional health app her startup was developing. She'd used real subjects for testing, tracking their emotional responses through text analysis, photo metadata, location data, subject files labeled with initials, RP for Rachel, MC for Mason, emotional response tracking, positive indicators, intimacy scores. She'd literally quantified their affair through her own prototype. I sat back, staring at the screen. The architectural part of my brain was already sketching blueprints. Not for buildings, for something else. Revenge is just design thinking applied to human behavior. The Mindwell office party happened on Saturday, one of those mandatory fun events that tech companies use to pretend they're families instead of corporations. Julia spent an hour getting ready, changing outfits 3 times. "How do I look?" she asked. "Perfect," I said. She was. That was the problem. We arrived at the warehouse space they'd rented downtown. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs, craft beer on tap. The aesthetic of authenticity, mass-produced. Rachel found us immediately, hugged Julia, then me. Her smile was warm, practiced. "So glad you guys came." "Wouldn't miss it," I said. Chris appeared carrying 2 beers. Handed one to Rachel, nodded at me. "Hey man, how's the Riverside project?" "Complicated. How's the merger case?" "Same." We stood there, 2 men discussing work while our partners betrayed us. The banality of it was almost funny. Mason arrived late because of course he did. Freelance photographer, brand influencer, the kind of guy who wore vintage band shirts that cost $200. He worked the room like he owned it, stopping at each cluster of people, laughing too loud, touching arms, shoulders, backs. Julia watched him. I tried not to, but I caught it. The way her posture changed when he entered her field of vision, the way she touched her hair. Rachel watched him too. More obviously. Chris didn't notice. He was talking to someone from legal about discovery protocols. I noticed everything. Mason eventually made his way to us. "Jules, hey, love the mock-ups you sent over." "Thanks. I think the emotional mapping feature could be really powerful." "Definitely. Though I'm more interested in the messiness behind the data, you know? The human chaos that numbers can't capture." Julia laughed. "That's very photographer of you." "Guilty." He turned to me. "You're the architect, right?" "Alex?" "That's me." "Must be interesting, designing spaces for how people actually move through them, like UX but physical." "Similar principles," I said. "Anticipate behavior, minimize friction, guide them where you want them to go." "Exactly." He grinned at Julia. "See, your fiancé gets it. You like clean design, I like messy people." "Maybe I'm messier than you think," Julia said. The air between them thickened. Rachel glanced away. Chris kept talking about depositions. "Then prove it," Mason said quietly. Julia's eyes locked with his. 2 seconds, 3. "Another beer?" I asked loudly. The spell broke. Mason laughed, clapped my shoulder. "Sure, man. Thanks." I walked to the bar, ordered 4 beers I didn't want, and watched them in the mirror behind the taps. Mason leaning close to Julia, Rachel touching his arm, Chris finally noticing something was off, frowning, not quite understanding what. The bartender handed me the beers. "Rough night?" she asked. "Just getting started," I said. I stayed for another hour, playing the role of supportive fiancé. Julia introduced me to her colleagues. I smiled, nodded, pretended to care about user retention metrics. At one point, I saw Julia and Mason step outside together. Just for a moment. Cigarette break, except Julia didn't smoke. They came back 5 minutes later. Her lipstick was slightly smudged. "Ready to go?" I asked. "Already. We just got here." "I've got early meetings tomorrow, but you should stay." Relief flashed across her face. "You sure?" "Absolutely. Have fun." I kissed her cheek, nodded goodbye to Chris, who looked grateful that someone else was leaving early too. On the drive home, I called an old friend from my graduate program, Danny Chen. He'd gone into tech instead of architecture, built a successful app development company, owed me a favor from when I'd helped him through his thesis project. "Alex, hey, it's been forever." "I need your help with something," I said, and it needs to be completely confidential. Sounds ominous. It's complicated. I'm listening. I explained what I needed. A fake potential client, a demo app, some very specific features that would integrate with Mindwell's existing API. Nothing illegal, nothing that required hacking, just clever design that exploited how their system already worked. This is about revenge, isn't it? Danny said. It's about truth. Same thing sometimes. Can you do it? He was quiet for a moment. Yeah, I can do it. Give me a week. Thank you. Alex, be careful. This kind of thing can get messy. I'm counting on it, I said. Julia came home at 3 a.m. I pretended to be asleep. She slid into bed, smelling like cigarettes she didn't smoke and cologne I didn't wear. The next morning, she was cheerful, made pancakes, talked about the party, carefully editing out certain details. Mason's actually really talented, she said. His portfolio is incredible. Good to know. He might work with us on the Mindwell 2.0 launch campaign. That makes sense. Emotional health, visual storytelling. Exactly. I knew you'd understand. I understood perfectly. For the next week, I was the perfect fiancé. Attentive, supportive, calm. Julia's guard dropped completely. She started working late more often, said it was crunch time for the launch, came home distracted, happy in ways that had nothing to do with me. I didn't mind. I was busy too. Danny delivered the prototype on schedule, truthfully a real-time honesty analyzer that used text patterns, metadata, and behavioral metrics to generate integrity scores. The interface was beautiful, clean, intuitive, exactly what a company like Mindwell would want. You really think they'll bite? Danny asked over video chat. Julia loves two things: new design paradigms and proving she's smarter than everyone else. This gives her both. What about the back-end stuff? You sure it'll pull what you need? Their API documentation is public. Your code just reads what's already there. Legal, though, right? Completely. They consent when they test the demo, standard terms of service. Danny shook his head. You're terrifying. You know that? I design buildings. This is just architecture applied differently. If you say so, good luck, man. I registered a fake company, built a minimal website, created a professional pitch deck, made it look like a legitimate startup seeking partnership. Mindwell was always hunting for integrations, ways to expand their platform. Then I sent the email. Julia saw it first. I'd made sure of that, timing it to arrive during her morning inbox review. That night, she was excited. We got this amazing pitch today, a honesty analysis app that could integrate with our emotional tracking. It's called Truthly. Sounds interesting. It is. Real-time integrity scoring based on communication patterns. The implications for mental health support are huge. Imagine being able to identify when someone's lying to their therapist. Or lying to themselves. Exactly. I'm setting up a demo meeting for next week. Want to join? You'd probably find the technical side fascinating. Sure, I said. I'd love to see it. The demo meeting happened in Mindwell's main conference room. Julia, Rachel, 2 developers, and the marketing director. Plus me, sitting quietly in the corner, supposedly there for moral support. I'd hired an actor to play the founder of Truthly. Professional, mid-30s, tech background. Danny had coached him on the talking points. He was perfect. The core algorithm analyzes linguistic patterns, the actor said, walking them through the interface. Hesitation markers, deflection phrases, contradiction frequencies. Then we cross-reference with metadata, timing, behavioral consistency. And it generates a score? Julia asked. Real-time integrity metrics, updated continuously as new data comes in. Rachel leaned forward. What about privacy concerns? Users consent when they connect their accounts, standard data sharing agreements. Everything's encrypted, anonymized. But theoretically, Julia said, you could analyze any communication system, email, messaging, social media. If we have API access, yes. Julia and Rachel exchanged looks. I could see the ideas forming, the applications, the possibilities. Could we test it? Julia asked. Run it on some sample data from our emotional tracking prototype. Absolutely. That's exactly what the demo's for. They spent the next hour connecting systems, granting permissions, uploading anonymized data sets. Except they weren't really anonymized. The subject codes were obvious. RPMCJB. I watched from my corner as the algorithm processed their data. The screens filled with graphs, timelines, integrity scores. The developers nodded, impressed. This is sophisticated. We've spent 3 years developing it, the actor said smoothly. Julia pulled up a specific dataset. Subject MC Mason's communication patterns from the past 6 months. The honesty score came back, 41%. Interesting, Rachel said, lower than expected. The algorithm weights authenticity pretty heavily, the actor explained. Someone who presents differently in different contexts scores lower. Makes sense, Julia said. Photographers, influencers, they're always performing. She didn't check her own score. Not yet. The meeting ended with enthusiasm. They wanted to move forward, integrate Truthly into Mindwell's platform, beta test with select users. This could be revolutionary, Julia said as we walked to the car. Imagine therapy combined with real-time honesty analysis. Imagine, I said. That night, I accessed the demo account Danny had set up, downloaded all the data they'd uploaded, cross-referenced it with my own documentation. Julia Bennett. Honesty score, 12%. Rachel Porter. Empathy score, 9%. Mason Clarke. Integrity score, 38%. I saved the reports, backed them up 3 different ways. Then I waited. Chris called me 2 days later. Hey, can we grab coffee? We met at a place downtown. He looked tired, kept stirring his coffee without drinking it. You ever feel like you're missing something obvious? He asked. Sometimes. Rachel's been distant, coming home late, distracted, says it's work stress, but something feels off. Maybe it is work stress. Maybe. He finally looked at me. You'd tell me if you knew something, right? If she was having an affair? The question sat there between us. Julia's ultimatum echoed in my head. If you tell Chris, we're done. I thought about that, about loyalty, about who deserved it. You remember that app Julia was excited about? I said. Truthfully? The honesty thing? Yeah. They gave me demo access for testing purposes. It's pretty revealing. How revealing? I pulled out my laptop, opened the interface, showed him how to navigate it. Try it, I said. Upload some messages, see what comes back. I don't know if I should. Data doesn't lie, Chris. That's the whole point. He stared at the screen. Then, slowly, he pulled out his phone, connected it to the system, uploaded his text thread with Rachel from the past month. We watched the algorithm process it, analyzing patterns, cross-referencing timestamps, building a behavioral profile. The results appeared. Communication consistency, low, deflection frequency, high, probable deception incidents, 47. Chris went pale. This can't be right. Keep reading. He scrolled through the detailed analysis. The algorithm had flagged specific messages, highlighted contradictions, identified patterns that suggested coordinated deception with another party. Who's MC? Chris asked quietly. Check the location data. He clicked through. The timeline showed Rachel's location during her supposed late work nights. Matched against MC's location, Mason Clarke's apartment. Over and over. Jesus, Chris whispered. I'm sorry. He closed the laptop, sat there, breathing carefully, lawyer brain trying to process evidence that shattered everything. How long have you known? He asked. Not long. But you knew. Julia told me not to tell you, said it would destroy you. He laughed, bitter. Well, she was right about that. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. He stood up. But thank you for showing me. Chris? Yeah? When you figure out what you're doing, let me know. I might be able to help. He studied my face, saw something there that made him nod slowly. I'll keep that in mind, he said. Julia came home that evening excited about a company-wide meeting. Big announcement, new partnership, celebration drinks after. You should come, she said. Everyone's bringing their partners. I don't know. It's your work thing. Please? I want to show off my brilliant architect fiancé. Okay, I said. I'll come. The meeting was in their main office space. 50 employees, investors, board members. The CEO gave a presentation about Mindwell's growth trajectory, the upcoming 2.0 launch, strategic partnerships that would position them as industry leaders. Then they announced the Truthly integration. Julia beamed. She'd been instrumental in making it happen. Career-defining moment. Except halfway through the celebration, Rachel's phone rang. She looked at the screen, frowned, stepped outside. She came back 5 minutes later, face white, found Julia, pulled her into a side room. I followed casually, stayed just close enough to hear. Chris knows, Rachel said. About Mason. About everything. What? How? That stupid app. The honesty thing. Apparently there's a demo version that analyzes messages, and Chris used it, and now he's filing for divorce. Silence. Jules, he has everything. Timestamps, locations, messages I thought were deleted. It's all there. That's impossible. The app doesn't have access to personal data without consent. Well, somehow it does. More silence. Mason, Julia said suddenly. Did he connect his accounts to the test system? For the beta, yeah. We all did. That jerk. I walked off before they noticed me. Went back to the party, grabbed another beer, and watched the celebration roll on while Julia's world quietly started to fall apart. She found me 20 minutes later. Tried to act normal, but I could see the panic behind her eyes. Can we go? She asked. I'm not feeling well. Sure. In the car, she was silent, processing, recalculating. Alex, she said finally, did Chris say anything to you? About Rachel? Like what? About them having problems. He mentioned she'd been working late a lot, seemed stressed about it. Julia's hands twisted in her lap. This is bad. Rachel's marriage is falling apart. Because of Mason. She jerked her head toward me. How did you know about Mason? You mentioned he was working with you guys. Photographer, right? Not hard to put together? It's not what you think. I don't think anything. I'm just driving. We got home. Julia immediately called Rachel, then Mason. Spent an hour on the phone, voice low, urgent. I heard fragments. We need to contain this. Check what data you uploaded. Delete everything. Too late for that. I'd already copied it all. The next week was chaos. Chris filed for divorce. Rachel moved out. Mason suddenly lost several contracts, including his work with Mindwell. Something about inappropriate relationships with clients. Julia tried to manage the fallout, protect Rachel, control the narrative. But the narrative had already been written. She just didn't know I was the author. She started getting paranoid about the Truthfully system, questioned the developers about data security, demanded audits of what information had been collected. There's something wrong with that app, she told me. The timing's too convenient. Chris finding out right after we ran the demo? Coincidence? I don't believe in coincidence. Then what do you believe in? She looked at me. Really looked, trying to read me the way she read user behavior, but I'd designed my interface carefully. She saw what I wanted her to see. I believe someone's sabotaging us, she said. Who would do that? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Julia became obsessed with finding the leak, spent hours reviewing logs, checking access permissions, interrogating anyone who'd touched the Truthfully integration. The actor Danny hired had disappeared, of course. The company website went dark. The email bounced. Perfect execution. It was a scam, Julia announced at dinner. Truthfully, the whole thing was designed to steal our data. That's concerning. It's more than concerning. It's corporate espionage. I'm reporting it to legal. What will they do? Investigate. Track down whoever did this. And if they can't, then we live with the damage. Rachel came over that night. She looked destroyed. Hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. Chris had frozen their accounts. Moved out of their apartment. Hired an aggressive divorce lawyer. He hates me, she said, crying on Julia's couch. He won't return my calls, won't talk to me. Just communicates through his attorney. He's hurt, Julia said. Give him time. I don't have time. He's asking for everything. The apartment, the savings, even my car because his name's on the title. Can he do that? He's a corporate lawyer. He knows exactly what he can do. Julia held her friend while she sobbed. I made coffee. Nobody drank. This is my fault, Rachel said. I should have been more careful. It's not your fault. That app violated our privacy. No. Rachel pulled away. It's my fault, and Mason's, and yours. Julia stiffened. What? You encouraged this. You told me to explore my feelings. You said Chris was too rigid, too logical. You made it sound like I deserved better. I was supporting you. You were supporting your own agenda. You wanted me to be as messy as you are. The room went cold. What's that supposed to mean? Julia asked quietly. You know exactly what it means. Rachel. How many times did you meet Mason without telling me? How many texts did you delete? I'm not stupid, Jules. I see how he looks at you, how you look at him. You're upset. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly for the first time in months. Rachel stood up, grabbed her bag. When Chris destroys me in court, I hope you remember that you helped him do it. She left. The door slammed. Julia stood frozen in the living room. She's wrong, Julia said. About Mason, about everything. Okay. You believe me, right? Does it matter? She turned to look at me, eyes searching. Of course it matters. Then yes, I said. I believe you. I didn't, obviously, but she needed to hear it. That night I got a message from Chris. Moving forward with the plan. You in? Absolutely. What do you need from me? Evidence, official documentation, everything your lawyer can pull together. Done. When? 2 weeks. I'll let you know where. Julia's paranoia grew. She started checking her accounts obsessively, changed passwords, deleted old messages, locked down her privacy settings. Too late, obviously, but I let her pretend it mattered. Mason tried calling her. She ignored him at first, then finally answered. Stop calling me, she said. We can't be seen together right now. I couldn't hear his response, but her expression shifted. That's not what this is about. Rachel's going through something terrible. Pause. No, I don't think it's funny. Her life is falling apart. Longer pause. Look, I need space. From this whole situation, including you. She hung up and caught my gaze. He's impossible, she muttered. Photographers usually are, I said. She almost smiled. That's unfair to photographers. Probably. We stood there. The apartment suddenly felt too small. Alex, she said, can I ask you something? Sure. If you knew something terrible about me, would you tell me, or would you let me figure it out myself? That depends. On what? On whether you'd actually want to know. She studied my face. You're different lately. How so? Calmer, like nothing bothers you anymore. Maybe nothing does. That's what scares me. She went to bed early. I stayed up, finalizing plans. Danny sent me the final data package. Everything the Truthly demo had collected, cleaned, and organized. Messages, timestamps, locations, photos. 6 months of documented deception. This is everything? I asked over video chat. Every byte, backed up 3 ways, encrypted, ready when you are. Perfect. You sure about this, Alex? Once you pull this trigger, there's no taking it back. I've never been more sure of anything. All right, your funeral. Theirs, I said. The next 2 weeks passed slowly. Julia grew more anxious, started having nightmares, would wake up gasping, check her phone, scroll through messages looking for threats that weren't there. Something's coming, she said one morning. I can feel it. Like what? I don't know, but it's big. She was right, of course. She just didn't know how big. Mason started posting about it online. Vague subtweets about betrayal, fake friends, women who played games. His followers ate it up. Sympathy, outrage, the usual social media circus. Julia saw the posts. He's such a child. Seems upset. He has no right to be upset. He knew the situation. Did he? She glared at me. What's that supposed to mean? Just that everyone sees situations differently, depending on what they were promised. I never promised him anything. Okay. Stop saying okay like that. Like what? Like you don't believe me, but you're too polite to say so. I'm not polite, I said. I'm patient. There's a difference. She opened her mouth, closed it, walked away. The night before the dinner, I couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety, from anticipation. Like Christmas morning when you're 8 years old and you know exactly what's under the tree. Julia was asleep beside me, dreaming, occasionally murmuring. I wondered what she was dreaming about. If she suspected, if some part of her knew. Probably not. She'd always underestimated me, found me predictable, safe, logical to a fault. That was her first mistake. I got up, went to my office, opened my laptop, reviewed the presentation one final time. Every slide perfect. Every piece of evidence irrefutable. Every revelation timed for maximum impact. Architecture applied to emotional destruction. Tomorrow, the building falls. I told them it was a closure dinner, a chance to talk things through, address the chaos of the past month, maybe find some way forward. Julia was skeptical. Why would Rachel and Chris want to have dinner together? They need to finalize divorce details, might as well be civilized about it. And Mason? He's part of this too, whether we like it or not. She didn't want to come, I could see that. But curiosity won. The need to control the narrative, to manage everyone's perception. Classic Julia. I'd rented a private room at a restaurant downtown. Neutral territory. Big screen on the wall for presentations. I'd told them I wanted to show some architectural renderings. Nobody questioned it. They arrived separately. Rachel first, looking hollowed out. Then Chris, expressionless in his courtroom armor. Mason showed up late, defiant, wearing sunglasses indoors like the caricature he was. Julia came with me, holding my hand, seeking comfort, safety. "This is weird," she whispered. "It'll be fine," I said. We sat, ordered drinks. The tension was suffocating. "So," Mason said, "who wants to go first?" "Nobody needs to go first," Julia said. "We're here to talk, like adults." "Adults," Rachel repeated. Bitter laugh. "That's rich." Rachel. "No, it's fine. Let's all pretend we're adults, that we haven't been lying to each other for months." "I never lied to you," Julia said. Chris made a sound, not quite a laugh. "Are we really doing this?" "Doing what?" Julia asked. "Pretending. It's exhausting." "I don't know what you mean." "Sure you don't." Mason leaned back in his chair. "Can someone just say what this is actually about?" "Transparency," I said. Everyone looked at me. "That's what this is about," I continued. "Transparency. Honesty. All those words we use without meaning." "Alex," Julia said quietly, "what are you doing?" I stood up, walked to the screen, pulled out my laptop. "Before we eat, I want to show you something, a project I've been working on." "We don't need to see your building renderings right now," Julia said. "It's not buildings." I connected the laptop. The screen came to life. I call it transparency mode. The title slide appeared. Simple, clean, just those two words. "What is this?" Rachel asked. "Context," I said. "Background, truth." I clicked to the next slide. Julia's face appeared, her profile photo from the Mindwell directory. Below it, data, metrics, scores, honesty, 12%, empathy, 31%, integrity, 19%. "What the hell is this?" Julia stood up. "Sit down," I said. Not loud, not aggressive, just factual. She sat. 3 months ago, I said, you told me that if I exposed Rachel's affair, you'd leave me, that I should value loyalty over truth, that some things were more important than honesty. Alex, stop. I agreed. I stayed quiet. I let Rachel keep lying to Chris. I let you keep believing you were in control. Click. Rachel's profile appeared. Similar metrics, similar failures. But I didn't stay idle, I continued. I built something, used tools you gave me access to, data you willingly uploaded, patterns you didn't think anyone would notice. Click. Mason's profile. Even lower scores. This is insane, Mason said. You can't just analyze people without consent. You gave consent when you connected your accounts to the Truthly demo, standard terms of service. You signed them. Truthly doesn't exist. Not anymore. But it did. Long enough to collect everything I needed. Click. A timeline appeared. 6 months of messages between Rachel and Mason. Key excerpts highlighted. Location data overlaid. Hotel receipts. Restaurant bills. Coordination patterns. Chris stared at the screen, face blank. I already know this, he said quietly. You know pieces, I said. Now you see the whole picture. Click. Another timeline. Julia and Mason. Fewer direct messages, more careful. But the patterns were there. Meeting times that aligned. Deleted messages recovered from backups. Photo metadata showing they'd been in the same locations at the same times. This is a lie, Julia said, voice shaking. It's data. Data can be manipulated. Can truth? Click. A video started playing. Security footage from Julia's apartment building. Timestamp from 3 weeks ago. Mason entering, Julia's door opening. Both disappearing inside. 2 hours later, Mason leaving, Julia in the doorway. A kiss, brief but unmistakable. Julia's face went white. You put cameras in my apartment? Building security footage, public record. I just requested copies. That's invasion of privacy. No, I said. That's documentation. Rachel was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. Chris still blank, processing. Mason stood up. This is nonsense. You've lost it. Sit down, Chris said. Don't tell me what to do. Sit. Down. Something in Chris's voice made Mason hesitate. Then sit. Click. More messages appeared. These between Julia and Rachel. Their private conversations, the ones where they'd discussed keeping Chris in the dark, where Julia had encouraged Rachel's affair, where they'd laughed about how easy it was to deceive their partners. If Alex finds out, just say it was emotional support. Chris is too logical to explode. They're both so predictable. Julia made a sound, half gasp, half sob. I trusted you, Rachel said to her. Not angry, just broken. I was helping you. You were helping yourself, using me to justify your own lies. Click. Financial records. Mason's Venmo transactions with Julia. Payments disguised as photography services, hotel bookings, expensive restaurants. You were paying for your own affair, I said to Julia. Creative accounting. Stop. Click. More video. A different location. Mason's apartment, Julia entering, multiple dates, multiple timestamps. Please stop, Julia whispered. Click. The final slide. A comprehensive report. Every lie cataloged, every deception documented, every betrayal quantified. At the bottom, a single line. Transparency achieved. I looked at them. All of them. Mason, furious and trapped. Rachel, destroyed. Chris, vindicated but empty. Julia, cornered. You wanted to protect secrets, I said to Julia. Said some things were better left hidden. That truth was less important than comfort. Alex, you were wrong. Please. You called me predictable, said you knew how I'd react, that I was too logical to explode. I smiled. Not warm, not cold, just satisfied. You were right about that. I didn't explode. I built. Carefully, precisely. Exactly the way an architect should. Julia stood up, shaking. You destroyed us. No, I said. I showed you what you destroyed. There's a difference. Mason lunged at me. Fast but clumsy. I stepped aside, architectural training giving me spatial awareness he lacked. He crashed into the presentation screen. It toppled, glass shattered, projector swinging. Chris caught Mason's arm, twisted, lawyer hands surprisingly strong. Don't, Chris said. Mason jerked free, breathing hard, looking at Julia. This is your fault. Mine? Julia's voice pitched high. You pursued me. You let me. You promised discretion. You promised you'd leave him. Silence. Julia turned to me. I never said that. She absolutely said that, Mason spat. Multiple times. Said you were cold, boring, that she was staying out of obligation. That's not true. It's in the messages, I said quietly. Third timeline, slide 27. Julia's face crumbled. I thought we'd leave together, Mason said. Start fresh. You said you wanted that. I said I wanted to feel alive. That's different. Semantics. Reality. Rachel stood up, walked to the door. I can't be here. Rachel, wait, Julia said. For what? More lies? More manipulation? I'm done. She left. The door closed with finality. Chris looked at me. You have copies of all this? Multiple backups. Send them to my lawyer. She'll make sure the divorce goes smoothly. Already done. He nodded, walked to the door, paused. Thank you, he said. Then he was gone too. Mason and Julia stood there, wreckage between them. This isn't over, Mason said to me. I'll sue you. Privacy violation, harassment, something. With what money? I asked. You're broke. Lost your contracts. Your reputation's destroyed. And everything I did was legal. You consented to the data collection, signed the terms. If you sue me, I'll countersuit for the hours I spent documenting your fraud. Mason's face went red, then white. He looked at Julia one last time. You deserve this, he said. Get out, Julia whispered. He did, and then it was just us. Julia and me. The destroyed screen, broken glass, spilled wine nobody had drunk. Why? She asked, voice empty. You asked me to choose between truth and loyalty, I said. I chose truth. By destroying everyone? By revealing what was already destroyed. You just couldn't see it. I loved you. You loved control. I was just part of your interface. She walked toward me, stopped inches away, searched my face for something, regret, mercy, the man she'd thought she knew. Who are you? She whispered. I'm exactly who I always was. You just never bothered to read the documentation. Her hand moved. For a moment I thought she'd hit me, but she just touched my face. Gentle, final. I hope this was worth it, she said. It was. She picked up her purse, walked to the door, turned back. You'll regret this. No, I said. I really won't. She left. I stood alone in the private room, broken screen still casting light fragments across the walls, my laptop humming quietly, the presentation complete. I pulled out my phone, opened the cloud storage, the final backup I'd prepared. Every piece of evidence, every document, every video, uploaded to a private server, encrypted, accessible only by the 4 people in that room. Below it, a single message I'd written months ago when this all began. Truth isn't revenge. It's just architecture with better lighting. I pressed send. The upload completed. My phone buzzed. Multiple notifications. They'd all received it, all seen it. I closed the laptop, turned off the projector, left the key on the table for the restaurant staff to find. Walked out into the night. The city stretched around me, buildings I'd designed, spaces I'd created, clean lines, functional beauty, everything in its proper place. Julia was right about one thing. I was predictable. I built things that lasted, even when those things were ruins.